really a privilege to lead a department dedicated to supporting New Brunswickers in this time of need. And thanks to the staff for all the support. The challenges we face by our clients can present significant obstacles, and I'm committed to continue to work at making their lives better. C'est un ministère très occupé. It's a busy department. There's rarely a day goes by without issues raised by the media that aren't related to our department, from long-term care to housing, child welfare, and of course, social assistance. The needs are huge, and we must not forget that we are providing services to a large number of people in our province. Approximately 75,000 people receive our services every month. The total annual budget for our department is approximately $2.3 billion, with $235 million per year just on social assistance and services alone. So that's no small feat. Nous aidons les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick et nous voulons les aider davantage. Social development is about improving the well-being of individuals in our society so that they can reach their full potential. The success of a society is linked to the well-being of each and every citizen within it. Nous voulons aider les gens de réussir avec dignité. Social development means investing in people. It requires the removal of barriers so that all citizens can join towards their dreams with confidence and dignity. It's about refusing to accept that people who live in poverty will always be poor. It's about helping people so they can reach their full potential. Every New Brunswicker must have the opportunity to grow, develop their own skills, contribute to their families and communities in a meaningful way. If they are healthy, well-educated, and trained to enter the workforce and are able to make a decent wage, they are better equipped to meet their basic needs and be successful. Their families will also do well as a whole, and society will benefit. Today's announcement will provide more support to the families and individuals in need in our province. Le changement donnera plus aider aux familles et aux personnes dans le besoin. So I'm pleased today to make a series of changes and new exemptions in the calculation of eligibility to social assistance for individuals and families. C'est le résultat de réforme des programmes d'aide sociale. Our government has been committed to social assistance reform as a key step towards reducing poverty and removing barriers for clients who are transitioning to employment. As a platform commitment, the reform was undertaken in 2020 to determine how to help individuals become sustainably employed and how to better support those who are not able to work. Social assistance programs in New Brunswick provide financial support to individuals and families who have no other financial resources to meet their basic needs. As of September, 26,949 individuals were receiving social assistance in the province. 20,438 were under the Transitional Assistance Program, and 6,511 were under the Extended Programs Benefit. The Transitional Assistance Program is intended to provide short-term financial assistance while supporting clients along the continuum of employability. The Extended Benefits Program provides support to clients who have been assessed as blind, deaf, or disabled by the Medical Advisory Board. Les changements suivants seront effectifs le 1er octobre. We are pleased to announce the following changes will come into effect October 1 and will represent an annual investment of approximately additional $10.8 million. So who's ready for some good news? First, we are announcing new exemptions in the calculation of eligibility of social assistance. Child support payments will no longer be considered as household income. The same can be said for the Canada-New Brunswick Housing Benefit. And third, as well as for compensatory awards related to personal injuries. Les clients de l'aide sociale pour en gagner plus d'argent grâce à leur employé. We are also announcing that social assistance clients will be able to earn more money from employment while still assessing partial benefits from the department. The wage exemption for all households will be increasing to $500 per month plus 50 cents for every additional dollar earned. Now, in comparison, current wage exemptions for single client is only $150 monthly plus 30 cents for each additional dollar earned, and it is $200 for household units of 2 or more. So our clients and stakeholders have stated for a long time that increases in the wage exemption will support individuals to earn more income to provide their needs. We've listened and we are acting. Cela a pour priorité plus le soutien aux personnes qui ont un employé. This new wage exemption will see more support for individuals who begin their journey to employment or back to employment. Approximately 3,500 households will benefit from this increase in the wage exemption. Another important initiative today is the elimination of the shelter deduction for social assistance. Cette déduction existe depuis beaucoup d'années. For years, the shelter deduction was applied in the following situations: individuals living with their parents, individuals whose shelter cost was less than 25% of their monthly assistance, and blind, deaf, and/or disabled individuals living with their parents and the parents' annual income was under $50,000. So eliminating the shelter deduction will allow individuals to keep more of their social assistance check and ultimately allow them to have more resources available to meet their needs. This will ensure that we are supporting individuals in their ability to find safe and secure housing and provide more resources to individuals who are experiencing homelessness. Les gens auront plus ressources pour répondre à leurs besoins. Another initiative as part of the reform is the modernization of the definition of deaf. This will provide a more accurate and relevant assessment of complete or nearly complete hearing impairment. The new definition will allow audiologists to use more modern testing techniques. The stakeholders have identified concerns with the current definition of deaf in the regulation, and a new definition was proposed that would increase the accuracy and relevance in determining deafness. And the other change to be part of the reform will see that nurse practitioners will be authorized to sign medical forms for social assistance clients who are applying for the disability designation. This change was requested again by stakeholders to help social assistance clients who are living with a disability. Ce changement a été demandé par les intervenants. Providing primary health care to New Brunswickers is important to this government. Allowing nurse practitioners to complete and sign forms for disability application will streamline the application process for individuals. This change also aligns with the role that nurse practitioners play in our healthcare system. So these are changes put in place as part of the new social assistance reform, and they will come into effect October 1, the end of this week. Ces changements seront effectifs le 1er octobre. With these changes, we want to help all New Brunswickers thrive, reduce poverty, prepare people for employment where possible, and provide timely support to people with episodical challenges. I want to remind you that this is there's not only changes that have been announced this year with the objective to help New Brunswickers in needs. Earlier this year, the provincial government announced the indexation of all social assistance rates to inflation. So that means that on April 1st each year, social assistance rates will be increased by the percentage change in the New Brunswick Consumer Price Index. This announcement was made during the provincial budget. It was one of the most progressive provincial budgets in years, that included budget increases for long-term care services, housing programs, and social programs. And I appreciate the support I had with my colleagues in moving that budget forward. La réforme de l'aide sociale n'est pas terminée. And I have to say, today's announcement will not mark the end of our social assistance reform. This is a continuing program revision process. But today's social assistance reform is intended to be many changes over time and to adjust to the changing needs of the society and keep the programs as modern as possible. Nous allons continuer de revoir nos programmes. Nous allons faire autres changements. We'll continue to review our programs. There will be other changes coming, particularly for services with persons living with a disability. We intend to make more changes that will be beneficial to thousands of New Brunswickers and to continue to fulfill the important mandate of the Department of Social Development. Once again, thank you very much for your interest and attending today. Merci beaucoup.
We're ready now to take some questions from members from the media. On est prêt maintenant de procéder à la période de questions de la part des représentants des médias. And we're going to start first with asking Brad Perry, CHCO News. Brad Perry, do you have a question for the minister?
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much, Minister. I guess my question relates to the additional forms that you mentioned that the Department of Social Development will be looking at. Can you comment a little further on what other areas that you will be looking at reforming in the coming months?
Sure. We're going to announce a task force shortly with respect to disability benefits and some of the challenges that are met there. And our hope is that that task force will come back with some of the recommendations that we want to review and that we'll be moving forward from there.
Okay. Any follow-up question?
That is good for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Vicky Hogarth, CHCO-TV. Do you have a question for the minister?
Yes, I do. The current housing crisis is obviously playing a huge factor in people's experience of poverty in the province right now. To what degree did it influence some of these changes today, and do you have more plans to address the housing crisis with additional changes?
Right. I was pleased to be tasked by the Premier to be the spokesperson for the 90-day rental review. And we continue to reach some of the milestones with respect to some of the changes that will improve the situation there, which, again, some are short-term, some are very long-term. But what we're doing today, again, specifically with the shelter deduction and not making the Canada-New Brunswick Housing Benefit, reducing social assistance, that'll give more money in the hands of individuals who are struggling with housing.
All right. Any follow-up question?
No, thank you.
All right. Maintenant, Pascal Reichnog, Radio-Canada. Est-ce que tu as une question pour le ministre? Pascal Reichnog, Radio-Canada. D'accord. On va passer au prochain. Oui. Pascal Reichnog, est-ce que tu es sur la ligne? Non? OK. Je reviendrai à la fin de la liste. Régent Hébert, CHCO. Est-ce que tu as une question sur l'annonce d'aujourd'hui? Régent Hébert, CHCO. Non? OK, je réessayerai à la fin de la liste. Now, Savannah Audi, Telegraph Journal. Do you have a question?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I guess I'm just wondering, for the new wage exemption policy, could you outline, I guess, the change between the previous, I guess, wage exemption policy, which I believe it was 30 cents on the dollar people are keeping, and now it's 50 cents. First of all, could you confirm that's correct? And also, could you tell me, I guess, when you came to that new policy, and and why?
Okay, so let's just go back. The old policy, if you were an individual and you were working, you could keep the first $100 plus 30 cents on every dollar above that. And if you were a couple or a family unit,
150?
you could keep
It was
$150.
$150.
150 if you're a family unit. And now we're changing that to $500 per month that you can earn without affecting your SA, plus you'll be able to keep 50 cents on every dollar that you earn above and beyond that.
And I guess why that number? Sorry,
Oh, right.
just as yeah.
Sure. So I met with a number of the stakeholders, so Common Front for Social Justice, and NB-DEN also, which represents a number of the agencies that support folks with disabilities. And that was one of the barriers that folks thought were in place to prevent people from going to work, to prevent people from earning some more money. It was all getting clawed back, or a significant percentage was getting clawed back. So this allows it to make it more worthwhile for them to find employment, and it also rewards them more because they're able to keep more to meet the basic needs of life. So it was there was a number of stakeholders that suggested it, and it was one that to me made sense in helping people prepare for either additional employment or at least to get some employment in order to help them out to make ends meet.
A follow-up question, Savannah?
Yeah, I guess sort of on a similar vein, I'm wondering, as this part of this ongoing effort to reform social assistance, I know similar groups have spoken with me around supporting people trying to return to work, and of course this wage exemption seems to be part of that. But I guess what other changes to the system are sort of ongoing or being looked at in order to help people kind of stay maybe in touch with the department, even if they start their work journey but might have to return? I guess I've just heard that that's a little bit of a difficult process, and of course it's not always smooth when you're transitioning back to work. So maybe could you tell me a bit about that?
Sure. There's we've worked quite a bit with PEDAL, post-secondary education training and labor, to find programs that'll help people get back to work, stay at work, and part of our assistance, whether it's the white card, continuing the white card or the health card for a period of time, and allowing these wage exemptions. Those are a number of the initiatives, and I don't want to speak for PEDAL, but they've got a number of initiatives as well that will help people transition back to work if that's the direction that they want to go.
All right.
And sorry, could I just get one clarification on the 10.8 million? Is that money that was in this year's budget, or is part of that coming next year?
No, that was this year's budget. We again, next year's budget will be another discussion with my colleagues, but this particular amount was above and beyond what it was originally last year, so we fought to have it in the budget this year. And October 1 is halfway through the year, so we're able to move forward at this time with these initiatives.
All right.
Thank
Next on the list, Adil Ibrahim, CBC. Do you have a question for the minister?
Yes, thank you. Just on the $10.8 million vein, where is that coming from exactly? I mean, I know we haven't had, much increase in income. So is that coming at the, at a reduction in other parts of social development, or is it coming from a different department? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. When, and I mentioned it in my notes, that this was one of the progressive social development budgets that I've seen in many, many years. So within the budget, we included that 10.8 million, and it was passed last spring. So this initiative, which starts October 1, halfway through the budget year, so we're going to be able to go forward with that because it was within the budget.
Do you have a follow-up question?
Yes. Can you touch a little bit on the nurse practitioner angle here? So you said that came from feedback from stakeholders. Did you talk to nurse practitioners about putting this extra, giving them this extra, I guess, power?
Yes, and that's there's 2 points here. One was people were finding it difficulty to get their forms redone every year because they had to wait for a doctor's appointment or whatnot. And now with the expansion of the nurse practitioners in other departments as well, and their authority to do things, it just followed along with that to enable them to be able to reduce the red tape, reduce the wait, and get the forms signed off on clients of SA. So, and that's all in with discussions as well with the nurse practitioners.
All right. Prochain sur la liste, Alexandre Boudreau, Acadie Nouvelle. Alexandre Boudreau, est-ce que tu as une question pour le ministre?
Oui, bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, tu peux parler plus fort, ce serait bien.
All right. J'aimerais, c'est un peu un suivi sur la question de Vicky. En fait, je voudrais savoir ce que le ministre, si le ministre a toujours l'intention de déposer un projet de loi par rapport au logement en novembre. Puis qu'est-ce que ça va contenir? Est-ce qu'il entend toujours, dans le fond, empêcher les augmentations de loyers très élevés? Est-ce que ça fait encore partie des plans essentiellement?
No.
I can ask it in English.
Oh, merci, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, so basically, I just want to know on housing. I just wanted to know if you still plan to bring forward a bill on changes to housing. Basically, do you still plan to basically stop developers from increasing rents by large amounts? Is that still in your plans?
Yep. And again, as the minister tasked with the 90-day rental review, there were 12 initiatives that were specifically itemized, and a number of them had timelines. So SNB has regards with the Residential Tenancy Act, and there are some expectations that those would come forward this fall. SNB, Minister Wilson has been working with our department on some of the changes that would, again, provide protection, additional protections for renters in the situation that you just described.
OK. Est-ce que tu as une question additionnelle, Alexandre?
I'd just like to know if that specifically is going to be in the bill, and if there's going to be anything else that you can tell me about that bill that you would presumably be putting forward in November. Yeah,
and the bill would be brought forward by Minister Wilson, and again, it's part of that overall review of the 90-day rental review that was put forward by the Premier. And again, I don't want to jump ahead or speak for the minister responsible, but you can stay tuned because the target is to have that legislation on the fall agenda.
Okay, now Natalie Sturgeon, Global. Do you have a question for the minister?
Yes. So one of the things that we heard from advocates when we spoke to them was about the household income policy, which changes the benefits that a person has if they move in or get married to someone who is also or who has an income. Is that part? I didn't see it mentioned in the speech or in the documentation. So have you addressed that at all?
You're correct. It wasn't in this particular list of reforms that we put forward today. But it is one of the items that, again, we'll be looking at and reviewing. We're presently reviewing it. I mentioned a task force that's going to be announced. Again, I expect one of the recommendations from that task force would be to make some changes there. There are a significant number of exemptions on that particular situation, and it's quite an extensive list that we could provide you through the staff if need be. But that's the one where there's so many exemptions, you know, it's time to look at that. These ones were the 10.8 million that we put forward today. We'll be getting money in the hands of individuals right away, starting October 1. So you'll see, I think folks will see a significant increase in their checks depending on what their situation was and if they were getting a shelter deduction or if it was being clawed back through the wage exemption or maybe child support payments. So the household income is one that we've targeted for review into the future, and that's how we said SA reform is not going to be a one-time event. It's going to be ongoing, and that's one that I have in my eye for review.
All right.
Okay, so not among this list, but on the priority list for the future.
That's correct.
Any follow-up question, Natalie?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and now Jennifer Bassa, CBC. Do you have a question for the minister? Okay, Pascal Rechnog, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, j'entends bien. Merci.
Okay, désolé. So my question for Minister Fitch. So I noticed in the changes that you're proposing today, there are a lot of changes to deductions. So the government will, claw back less of what people make or what people get from other sources of financial aid from governments. But advocates have been saying that one of the problem is the base rates are really very low in New Brunswick. And I understand that you have indexed increases to inflation, but some advocates have been saying that that's not enough because there's a big gap to fill, because the rates hadn't changed for years and years prior to the indexation. So I'm wondering, why have you put into some thought into maybe bumping up the rates, faster than inflation, or a one-time bump or something of the sort?
In 2020, the Higgs government did increase the temporary assistance benefit by 5%. And now the fact that we've tied it to inflation will make sure that it continues to increase. This investment today of $10.8 million will put money into the hands of many people across the province of New Brunswick. So we acknowledge, yes, that people are struggling, but these initiatives today will help folks with the struggle of making ends meet. And as I mentioned before, the work's not finished totally. We are going to continue to review and help where we can. But I'm very, very excited about this $10.8 million investment right into the hands of individuals that need it the most.
Une question additionnelle, Pascal?
I guess it's just a question that we can ask every time we talk to the minister about social assistance. So single employable at the transitional rate will get $537 a month. Do you think that's enough to live on in New Brunswick in 2021?
It's actually $571. It is a temporary benefit. Yep, and it is a temporary.
On the website.
Oh, sorry. Yep, we'll update that website. And again, these individuals are employable individuals, and we have programs again to help them get back into the workforce, and it is meant to be a temporary benefit.
All right. On va passer à Régent Hébert encore une fois. Je vais essayer. Régent, est-ce que tu es sur la ligne et est-ce que tu tenais à poser une question au ministre? Régent Hébert, CHCO. Non. Jennifer Bassa, CBC. Je crois que I think that I asked that person already. Are there any other media on the line that didn't have the chance to ask a question? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres personnes sur la ligne, des journalistes, des membres des médias qui n'ont pas eu la chance de poser leurs questions? Okay, one last time. Any other question from the media on the line? Est-ce qu'il y a encore des questions?
I just wanted to note that the meeting chat looks like there's a question in there.
Sorry, I didn't.
Sorry, can you repeat? Who's speaking?
Oh, this is Savannah.
Okay.
There's a question in the chat. I don't know if you saw that, but.
A question in the chat. We don't have access to that, do we?
I'm not sure what you're referring
The chat,
to.
it must be online.
In the Teams chat, someone wrote a question. I can read it to you if you want, but I don't. It's Leslie Chandler. I don't know if that's.
Go ahead. You may as well read it.
Sure. It just says, has the nurse practitioners organization been informed or consulted on the new task put before them in this announcement? I guess I'm filling out forms.
Yes, yes, I'm told that staff has met with them and discussed this.
Okay, one last time for questions. D'autres questions? No? That's it?
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your time and effort in covering this story.
That concludes this morning's Social Assistance Reform News Conference with Minister of Social Development, Bruce Fitch. Thank you for joining us today. If there is a press conference for COVID-19 later on today, I will let you know via the Facebook page. At the moment, though, I do not believe there is anything scheduled, but stay posted. Follow us online. I appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm Vicki Hogarth at the CHCO News Desk. I will see you again soon.